evening sun was slowly setting over the quiet neighborhood as Officer James was finishing what he expected to be a calm, uneventful shift. The soft hum of his patrol car felt almost soothing, until a sudden, desperate cry shattered the stillness. Turning quickly, James saw a little girl no older than 6 running toward his car. Tears streaked down her cheeks, her tiny hands trembling as she tried to get words out through her sobs. Her pink dress was crumpled, and her hair was messy, evidence that she had been running for some time. "Please follow me home," she pleaded, her voice urgent and breaking with fear. Something in her eyes, a mix of terror, hope, and desperation, told James this wasn't just a child having a rough day. This was a real cry for help, and his instincts made it clear he could not ignore her. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, please take a moment to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Tale Trust. Your support allows us to bring more heart-touching stories like this to life. James didn't hesitate. He stepped out of the car, crouched down to her level, and assured her that he was there to help. The girl grabbed his hand tightly, urging him to follow her. Her pace was quick, filled with urgency, and she only glanced back occasionally to make sure he was keeping up. The path wound through narrow suburban streets, each step making the tension in James grow. He couldn't shake the feeling that whatever awaited them at the end of this path was serious, and that he needed to be ready for anything. As they drew closer, Officer James began noticing subtle details that made him uneasy. The houses in this part of the neighborhood were older, some with peeling paint, and an unusual stillness hung in the air, broken only by the little girl's quick, hurried footsteps. When they arrived at the house, James felt a pang of concern. The home was small, the yard overgrown, and the front door was slightly ajar. There were no signs of life inside. The girl pointed toward the door, her voice shaking as she whispered that her mommy was inside but wouldn't wake up. James felt his chest tighten and stepped inside carefully. The dim lighting revealed a living room in disarray, empty food containers, scattered bills, and a faint, stale odor lingering in the air. Following the girl, he entered a small bedroom and found a young woman barely in her 20s lying motionless on the bed. He quickly checked her pulse. She was alive but weak, her breathing shallow. It was clear immediately that she wasn't simply asleep. She needed urgent medical attention. While calling for an ambulance, James kept speaking gently to the little girl, asking calm questions to keep her focused and reassured. The girl's name was Emily. Between quiet sobs, she explained that her mother had been ill for several days. Emily had tried to prepare soup but couldn't reach the stove, and she had been too afraid to leave her mother's side until she realized help was necessary. That was when Emily ran out and spotted the police car. Paramedics arrived quickly and took her mother to the hospital. Emily clung tightly to James's uniform, her small hands refusing to let go, fear gripping her heart. James knelt down and reassured her that he would stay by her side until her mother was safe. He then drove Emily to the hospital, holding her hand gently as they walked into the waiting area. The hours stretched on, filled with the sterile smell of the hospital, but James never left her side. Finally, a doctor came out with news. Emily's mother, Sarah, had collapsed due to severe exhaustion, dehydration, and untreated pneumonia. She had been overworking herself, juggling multiple jobs, and neglecting her own health to care for her daughter. As James listened, he couldn't forget the image of their small, cluttered home and the stack of unpaid bills. It was clear that Sarah had been struggling quietly for a long time, too proud or too afraid to ask for help. Emily sat quietly, hugging her knees, watching every nurse pass by as if hoping one of them would bring news about her mother. James crouched beside her and promised that he would make sure everything would be okay. Over the following days, while Sarah recovered, James visited often. Emily began to smile more, finding comfort in his presence. Through their conversations, he learned that Sarah had been abandoned by Emily's father, left to raise her daughter alone with no family nearby. Sarah had been taking on cleaning jobs, working late into the night, all while hiding her struggles from everyone around her. James realized that without help, the moment Sarah left the hospital, life could easily return to hardship. Quietly, he reached out to local charities, neighbors, and even some of his fellow officers. Within days, donations of food, clothing, and financial support began to arrive, showing just how much the community cared. When Sarah was finally ready to leave the hospital, she returned home to find her house cleaned, stocked with fresh groceries, and essential repairs already underway. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she realized she wasn't facing her challenges alone anymore. Emily's smile that day was brighter than James had ever seen. She hugged her mother tightly and then turned to embrace James, whispering a soft, "Thank you," that he would remember in his heart for years. The neighborhood, inspired by the courage of one little girl and the compassion of a community, continued to check in on Sarah and Emily. Sarah began working fewer hours at a stable job, giving her more time to spend with her daughter, and their bond grew even stronger. One evening, as James stood outside their home watching Emily play in the yard while Sarah chatted with neighbors, he realized this story was bigger than a single rescue. It was about hope. It was about how even the smallest voices, like Emily's plea that day, could inspire life-changing kindness. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Tale Trust. Your support helps us continue sharing these powerful reminders that kindness still exists in the world.